Hey everybody, welcome back to Andertons TV, and I have some rock royalty with me today. Look who it is!
What do you got, brother?
Man,
Good to see you,
I'm
man.
so excited about this. Zakk Wylde in the house.
Yes,
Man, you're so busy in terms of touring. I'm just super grateful that you've managed to squeeze us in. But look, I love to get conversational with guests that I have on, talk about their earlier experiences of growing up and who inspired them, and then talk about careers and gear and stuff like that. But you, for me, are part of a golden generation of guitar players that grew up listening to blues rock guitar and then taking it to another level, playing it harder and faster, but still keeping that beautiful melodic early musical sense that I think, you know, made the electric guitar great in the first place. But you know, and of course you come from such a wonderful place in the States for that type of music as well. So take me back to that sort of, you know, growing up in the 70s and who you were listening to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just whenever we're always talking about all the guys we love and everything, and all the players and everything like that. So I mean, for me, obviously, it was just, you know, as far as the heavy stuff goes, obviously it would be, I mean, it got to be Tony Iommi, you know what I mean? So, Lord Iommi. But, yeah, I guess, you know, Tony Iommi, Jimmy Page, obviously Jimi Hendrix, then, you know, obviously then all the players that I got involved, you know, Frank Marino from Mahogany Rush, and then, you know, Randy Rhoads, obviously, then Eddie Van Halen, you know, all the cats like that. And then we just heard the Joe Pass, Pat Martino model, you know, then all the jazz guys, and obviously Al Di Meola, which was on me, John McLaughlin, you know, from Mahavishnu and everything like that. And then all the acoustic stuff, Friday Night in San Francisco with Paco and all the guys. But, you know, but then you find out all those guys, you know, but what led me to all, you know, all the amazing players that you find, or, you know, it was, for me, it was Sabbath. I mean, originally it was Elton John. I mean, I was totally into Elton John. And then I found, you know, then it was guitar after that, you know, for just, I mean, I saw Elton John playing on Sonny and Cher, doing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And that, it was like lights out after that. I was like a huge Elton John freako after that. And then I remember seeing Black Sabbath, you know, it was like Scully, who's, you know, with Black Label, the jawless skull. And it said Black Sabbath 666 with a lightning bolt going through it. I was like, what's that? And he said, oh, it's some band my older brother listens to. And then I remember we sold our soul for rock and roll, and then started with Elton John's greatest hits, and then that was it, lights out from there. But yeah, but I think all the, you know, as far as being a musician, you know, guitarist, you know, you discover all the other players from, you know, your friends are telling you, you got to check this out, or you got to check that out, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's about it, man. So, you know, and I think guitar right now it's great with all the amazing players that are out right now. You know, I mean, you go on Instagram, it's awesome. It's inspiring. I mean, it's just that it continues to evolve.
Yeah. Did you go down like a formal guitar education, or have you been?
No, I remember I went over, you know, our football coach at the time when I was playing Pop Warner, going into high school. I remember I couldn't put the weight on at the time, so I didn't know about female growth hormone at that point. So, you know, which apparently I've discovered. So I put on a couple pounds since then. But for my slim, girlish Miss America physique. But no, going into high school football, I was just like, because I couldn't play the positions I want, you know, because I was coming from Pop Warner, I played linebacker. So if I couldn't be middle linebacker, if I couldn't, when we got to high school, I was just like, no, I'm not going to play then. So he was just trying to talk me into, you know, to continue playing. And then I remember his son Leroy was there, and he came out and just started jamming on the guitar. And I remember he was playing, you know, Sabbath and Zeppelin, and then he was a huge Hendrix guy, so he was playing some Hendrix. Then I think at the time he started playing a bit of Crazy Train for me. You know, when Ozzy just started with Randy, and I was just in complete awe, just watching his hands, and I was just like, that's what I want to do. It was just like the most, you know, like seeing if somebody was doing sleight of hand or card tricks or anything like that. But just seeing him play, it was just like seeing somebody doing sleight of hand tricks and just like going, wow, that's like the coolest thing. So I just thought it was amazing. So it just, so I took lessons from Leroy for about a year and a half or so, almost 2 years. But, you know, I mean, but it was great because he would just show me how things, you know, how things break down and how, you know, like if you laid out a whole bunch of car parts on the ground and you're like, it's just a giant mystery. And it's like this part needs to go with this part because that part connects to this part, you know, and you go, oh, okay. So then it all starts making sense. Yeah. But yeah, he was great in that way. So he would, you know, teaching me my favorite songs that I wanted to play. And then at the same time teaching me theory and then, you know, and then your scales. So, I mean, whether it was like, you know, I mean, and then showing me the pentatonic that goes with the diatonic, and it's like, oh, okay. So, you know, and then obviously, you know, if you're learning something in A, then you learn it in B, and then C, and then D, and whatever, you know, so this way, you know, you just learn your fretboard and all the notes so you could speak the language, you know what I mean? So, but he was great in that way, in that regard. So it was just to simplify it and so you can understand it. So, yeah, it was just, you know, and I know, because after that, it's all up to you where you take it from there. You know, so it's just like Tony Hawk showing you a couple tricks, and then you go, oh, okay, so, you know, so this way you could figure out how to do it, and, you know, but then from there on, it's you know, I always tell kids, it's lessons are great in regard that, you know, just so, because knowledge will always help. It can never hurt you, you know, so, but from there, it's where it's your imagination. Nobody, you know, that's wherever you want to take it.
I think there are some guitar players, largely I think the less successful ones, who have this idea that somehow theory can get in the way of creativity. But when I speak to really successful guitar players, they see theory as just the language. And you have to understand the language. The language has to become second nature. And theory teaches you the language so that when you're in a musical situation you're playing, you just naturally know how to talk the language.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's just like, you know, John McLaughlin always said, he goes, you learn all your theory and you learn everything like that, but like even John McLaughlin said, he goes, but when I'm soloing, I'm not even thinking. You know, it's just like when you're talking.
Exactly.
You don't think when you're talking, you know, I mean, you learn the language and then you speak. You know what I'm saying? So you're not, it just naturally comes out.
Has it always for you, have you very naturally...
Just like my wife, you know, when she just can't stop saying how much she loves me.
Oh,
you know, it's just,
the language
of
love is the best one of all. Have you always naturally...
Actually, I pay her for that. But,
do
you know,
you?
but anyway,
well, we all pay to some degree or another, don't we?
It shows payola is alive and well. But anyways, carry on.
Have you found that you've always been able to naturally pick up other musical instruments well? I mean, you look very comfortable in front of a piano keyboard, same as a guitar, and you're always able to be very musical.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I think, well, you ask most guitar players, I mean, if they picked up a bass, you know, but bass playing is a different, I mean, for me, real bass players, you know, it just like, if you're not, I mean, obviously certain things sound great when you're playing the main riff. You know what I mean? It's just to double the riff. I mean, it just sounds more powerful certain times. But then there's other things where you write bass lines to a riff. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, to me, that's true bass playing. You know what I mean? It's just like, but I mean, obviously certain kinds of calls for you got to double the riff or whatever. You know, if it's like if it's a heavy riff, you want to double it. Like, you know, with Sabbath or Zeppelin and that kind of, or, you know, but I mean, or you just pedal the certain note, you know what I mean? Like with something like Smoke on the Water, where you just pedal on the G. and the riff is going on, it just makes it even that much heavier, and then come in and then double the riff or whatever. But no, it's just, I think, playing, I think if you play guitar, you mess around on other stringed instruments, whether it's, a mandolin, a banjo, or bass or whatever, but, and piano's a whole nother thing. But, no, I think it's just like anything. You take the time, you sit with it, and you learn, and you practice a bit on it, and you're going to get better.
Yeah. Well, I was amazed going through. I spent a lot of time over the last week going through all the music that you've been involved with, and I think superficially, I was expecting the back catalogue to be much heavier than I saw Black Label Society in Anaheim a few years ago. It was a pretty heavy gig. Obviously, I'm familiar with all the sort of Pantera stuff and all of the sort of the Sabbath stuff, but I was really surprised how many much softer ballads there are in there, how much acoustic material you've put out over the years, how many songs you've written that aren't what you'd see as perhaps a stereotypical, heavy rock.
I mean, as
metal.
as much as I love listening to, all the Sabbath stuff and, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and, the heaviness of it. I love it when listening to the Stones doing Wild Horses and Memory Motel and listening to the Allman Brothers, doing Midnight Rider or, ballads, you know what I mean, or any of the Elton stuff. I just love the mellows of the Eagles, you know what I mean? So, and I'll just listen to like singer-songwriter stuff on my phone, just mellow, just the mellow stuff. I love that as well, as much as I love the heavy stuff, but then also at the same time, I love heavy riffs, you know what I mean? So whether it's Sabbath and Zeppelin and Deep Purple and stuff like that, but no, so I love both. So that's why Black Label, we do both, you know what I mean? It's just like, instead of just doing one thing. So, but like you said, that's the beauty of music. You gotta, and I was just they're like, when parents are like, Zakk, you got any advice for my son or my daughter or whatever, playing music? I said, yeah, whatever it is that moves you is what you should be playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot easier said than done, because I remember, I'm glad I went through it, just because you look back and you go, oh my God, it's just like, I remember with our band Cyrus, us trying to get signed and make it, in the music business. It's just complete the wrong way to do it. Like if you, well, this is popular right now, it's just like, yeah, but I love Sabbath and I love, riffs like Tony Iommi, it's just like, yeah, but you're never going to make it doing that, because Bon Jovi's huge right now, and us being from New Jersey, you got Bruce Springsteen and John Bon Jovi, but at the time, Slippery When Wet was like everybody on the planet and in other solar systems had a copy of Slippery When Wet, so,
That's still one
but
of
it
my
was just,
favorite albums
so it's
of all
just like,
time.
well, you're not going to make it playing Sabbath stuff if this is what so it's just like, it's the complete wrong way of doing anything. Like anything. It's just like, whatever it is that you like, it's just like, and the Guns N' Roses guys, it's always, because whatever becomes popular at the time, it's always been going on underground for several years before it actually takes off. The same thing with Bon Jovi. It wasn't, Bon Jovi was doing his thing, but it took several years until it broke. You know what I mean? So, and then, you're going to tell Guns N' Roses, well, you need to be more like Bon Jovi. And they're like, nah, but we like early Aerosmith punk stuff and this and that and whatever. And it's just like, well, you're never going to make it unless you're doing Living on a Prayer kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And then eventually, all Guns N' Roses becomes the biggest thing since sliced bread, and then you're going to tell Soundgarden that they need to be more like Guns N' Roses, and it's like, yeah, but we're not that's not who we are. This is what we do, you know what I mean? So it's just like, that's what I'm saying. So you're always going to have, because and at that point you're a day late and $1 short anyways, because that thing runs its 4-year high school course, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because every movement, you know, whether it's disco or whatever, you know, it's just like everything kind of runs its course, and then the next movement comes in. So I mean, when you look back at the history of music, you know, I mean, even back to doo-wop and all the 50s stuff, and then all of a sudden rock and roll starts coming in. I mean, the best was with Lemmy. He just goes, Zakk, I remember when there was no rock and roll. You know what I mean? So it was just, you know, you had Sinatra and everything like that right before Elvis and Chuck Berry and everything started. Then that movement started, you know? So
was that, because I mean, I don't know how old your parents are. My parents were born in the 40s. And I'm about 4 or 5 years younger than you are, so probably listening to fairly similar stuff as we're growing up. But yeah, that literally, when they talk about rock and roll, didn't exist until we heard it for the first time.
Totally.
Can you imagine that?
I mean, it is pretty crazy. I mean, and then you have, because, you know, I have my Guitar Player magazines with Keith Richards on the cover, and it said, Keith Richards, 16 years and the Rolling Stones. Like, I mean, but that was completely uncharted territory, because most rock bands at that point didn't even last 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the Beatles were 62 and they didn't even make it to 70. Mind you, they were together for 4 years before, like you said. They were together plowing away, doing their thing for 4 or 5 years before 1962.
Yeah.
So it's not like they just got together and then in 1962 they formed and then they were going. I mean, it's just, like you said, everything's goes. It's already going for 4 or 5 years that they're plowing away until it breaks. But I mean, yeah. So for Keith Richards, I mean, the band's like been around for like 342 years now. But I mean, at that point, the Rolling Stones, 16 years of Keith Richards. It's just like, you know, like 16 years was a big deal, you know, for a band to be around that long. And I mean, like us doing Black Label Society, it's almost going on 30 years now, you know what I mean? So, I mean, like even with Oz, I mean, when he tells me these stories, you know, when he gives me these amazing Sabbath stories from like 1971, 72, Zakk, I remember when we were doing this and blah, blah, blah. Like even Oz says, he goes, it just seems like it was like 2 months ago, you know. I mean, even with my dad, you know, from being a World War II vet, when he turned 80, he goes, well, boys, you can only turn 40 twice, you know. I mean, but it was, for him, Omaha Beach and D-Day just didn't seem that long ago. Yeah. You know, when he looked back on it, when he goes, wow, I'm 80, I like, wow, I don't feel it, you know what I mean? But it's just like, it goes quick, man.
Yeah. Well, so I'm guessing how did your parents feel about the whole, because certainly my grandparents, and it sounds like if your dad was a vet, he would have been a little bit older than my parents. I know there was a generation that kicked back pretty hard against their kids listening to the devil's music or whatever it was coined. Yeah. Were you always encouraged to follow your sort of a guitar?
Yeah, I had great parents. I mean, in regard, and I do, you know, me and my wife Barbara, we do it with our kids too. I don't force them to play music because that's what I do. I'm like, no, you do whatever it is that, and I tell them, I go, whatever it is you love and you have passion for, it's the only way you're going to excel at anything. You know what I mean? So, you know, like whatever songs it is that you like writing, you know, just with any musician, just if that's what naturally comes out of you, then that's what you should be, that's the music you love. You should be playing that, you know? So, no, but my parents were great. They never, when I played baseball, they backed me 100% on that. When I was playing football, they backed me 100%. And then when I found guitar, and it was just an all-day thing, you know, they supported me on that.
Yeah. You got bitten hard, didn't you, for guitar?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
You were one of those
but I mean,
just...
but I was like that with everything I did. You know,
right.
Whether it was baseball, football, it was all in.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, you might as well. If you're going to do something, just go for it.
I think there's always a thread as well. There's something. People who get to a good level of success, whether it's on a musical instrument or a sport or whatever it is, I think their brain is wired to go all in on.
Yeah.
I think you sort of have to accept that that's just you have to go all in, right, to get to
Yeah,
to a
just
certain
you might as
level.
well. I mean, just do what you love. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And if you can make a living doing it, then you're blessed, man.
So speaking of going all in, what are you able to look back now objectively and just go, I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't had the call from Ozzy? Would I have still, would it have been enough for me to have done something, maybe on a lower scale, or would you think it would have been big
without a
anyway?
doubt. I mean, like me and JD will talk about it. Who plays bass with Black Wylde. I've known JD since before Oz, so since we were teenagers. But no, we always talk about it. Like we would own a music store. We'd teach. We'd have our cover band, be in a wedding band. But I mean, everything would revolve around music.
Right. So
If I wasn't
to be-
blessed having
Yeah.
Ozzy in my life, and and now that we have our Black Label family, and but I mean all the stuff we did, like Zakk Sabbath with Oz, with us doing the Pantera celebration honoring the fellas, and then, but I mean everything, Experience Hendrix, all the stuff I do, everything would revolve around music.
Yeah.
Like I'm just saying, why would you want to have some crummy job that you hate, that you're miserable, and even if you're making money, you're just like, yeah, but I have zero interest in this. You know what I mean? So, yeah, whatever it is. I mean, it's just like Tony Hawk. He loves skateboarding, and if his parents were like, "Oh, you can't. Well, what are you going to do? You can't be skateboarding all day." It's just like, well, let's figure out a way how I can make a living doing this. I'm saying if Tony hadn't become this legendary skateboard guy, it'd be like he'd own a skateboard shop. He'd be going to all the skateboard shows. He'd be going to he'd start a magazine on skateboard. I'm just saying, but everything would revolve around the skateboarding and the culture and the lifestyle, and because you're all in.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is what I want to do. So then let me figure out a way how I can make a living doing this.
Yeah. Now, I obviously do want to talk about the gear, but before we get into the gear, your career, from Ozzy through Pride and Glory, through Zakk Sabbath, Black Label Society, doing some Pantera, it's like, it's a phenomenal career. But I'm interested in, do you find it amazing that your fans have accepted that you're going to and supported you despite the fact that you haven't sort of stuck in one lane in terms of musicality? You've gone from quite sort of cowboy chord kind of traditional classic rock blues tunes right through to the heaviest stuff, and a lot of bands I think struggle to keep the fans unless they're more in a lane. So do you just appreciate the way the fans have stuck with you, or do you find that fans want you to play a certain style of music more?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think, I don't know. And you always read about like certain artists, your favorite bands or whatever, where they go, no, you got to think, you don't think that way. You think about what you like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like when, the first Zeppelin came out, and then Black Sabbath, when the first Sabbath album came out. I mean, I get it. Timing has a lot to do with everything, and I mean, you had Cream started that whole movement, and, John Mayall with, where it's blues based. I mean, it was huge. It was a huge movement. And then you had Cream, which, to me, I mean, Sunshine of Your Love, that's the first metal riff.
Right.
Without a doubt. So, and I mean, they kicked the door open for everybody. So it was just like Cream, and then not only that, Cream with the improv, because that was becoming huge too.
Yeah.
So, and then the musicianship level as well. So, like everybody between Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, and Eric, it was like 3 insane musicians shredding. So it wasn't like, Eric was just amazing and then, Ginger and Jack Bruce were just supporting guys. It was just, they were all, insane. So you had the musicality level went up, and then you had all that, and then that just kicked the door open for everybody. And not only that, the style of heavy blues, and that's what, sort of turning into metal or whatever. But it's just like, that opened the door for Zeppelin came out, and then Sabbath came out, and then, everything was blues, and then you have the Allman Brothers and everything like that. I'm just saying, where there's a lot of improv, and musicianship and a lot of musicality involved in everything. So, but I think when they were all doing it, like you said, like then you have the Doors. You know what I mean? Where it's just like it's insane. You know, where the musicality of it, but nobody's telling any of those bands you have to be more like this or you have to be more. That's just like we were saying before when I first said it. That's the most complete wrong way to do anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, well, but you don't even like that. You know, why are you why are you playing that stuff? You don't even like it. You're like, why would you eat food you don't like? You know, I mean, unless you're doing a bodybuilding contest or something, you know, and it's like you got to eat whatever you got to eat to win, you know what I mean? So, but I mean, it really is the truth. I mean, Bon Jovi's playing what they want to play, and that's that. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen to it.
Yeah.
You know, but we're playing it because we love this and we feel it. You know, and if you're not feeling it, you shouldn't be playing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I even, you know, like when I was 11 years old, 12 years old, listening to Sabbath, it moved me, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And when I listen to Elton John, I love it. When I listen to the Stones, I love it. So, or the Allman Brothers, you know, all the stuff that I love, I listen to it. You know, like my dad listening to Frank Sinatra, he listens to it because he enjoys it. You know, he loves it. So it's just like, then that's what you should be listening to. You know, so no, I think if you think, and you know, like even Rick Rubin, I remember seeing this interview with Rick, and he said when people start thinking. You know, he said, and even talking about movies and stuff like that, it's just like when they made, you know, Animal House, they just made the movie. They're not thinking, oh, this is what people are going to like. We're just making the movie because it's friggin' hilarious, and it's just, you know, and like after we got done shooting the scenes, you know, me and you were high-fiving each other because we're like, this is going to be so friggin' hilarious when we edit this thing down and, you know, whatever. So, and then the movie comes out and it's massively... It's hilarious and it's hugely successful. But, you know, we didn't go in there with the intentions of that. We just went in there with the intention of making some insanely hilarious movie. But then then obviously everyone either wants to copy it or go in that direct, you know, try and emulate what we created where we're not even thinking about it. So like, no, I think you just have to play what you love, and you know, like you said, hopefully if they enjoy it and they like it, then great.
Yeah.
But you know, it'd be like telling Lemmy, you know, all the years when he's doing Motorhead, well, you need to be doing more of this or more of that, you know, more Bon Jovi kind of stuff, you know, to make it more popular. And he's just like, but that's not what I do. You know what I mean?
You got to stick with your heart, right?
Yeah, you have to. And Lemmy was successful doing Motorhead. You know, so it's just like, and going, no, this is what I play, and this is what I feel in my heart, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I love, and this is what moves me. And you just keep plowing ahead, and you just put the work in, and next thing you go door to door, and then hopefully we sell enough cookies, and people like our cookies. You know what I mean? So that's the only way to do it.
Can I ask? This is probably a more of a live question now, but of course you know you're mixing, playing. Touring with your own original material, you're doing stuff in Pantera where you're very much, you know, you're following in the footsteps of another guitar legend, and then in this with the Ozzy stuff, there's periods where you're emulating a legend that came before you, but then there's obviously periods where it is, you know, you've written stuff with Ozzy and it's your stuff. So when you're playing live, how much are you conscious that you need to play the solo that everybody expects to hear you play versus just feeling free to play whatever you want to play?
No, but whether you're playing Walk, you know, Dime has signature solos, that one, and then I'm Broken is very much in the vein of Crazy Train and Flying High again and Mr. Crowley. You gotta, you know, or, you know, if we're playing the solos, me and you playing the solos to Hotel California, and we're playing with the Eagles, you got to play those solos the way they are on the record, you know what I mean? So, or Stairway to Heaven. If we're in a cover band, I mean, you got to play the solo to Stairway to Heaven the way it is, you know what I mean? But
do you feel like
I think because they're written. There's not a lot of, you know, I mean, if there's other solos where there's room for improv, then you can, as long as you're in E minor and you hit on signature notes that are in there. But you know, for a lot like a Hotel California, or Stairway to Heaven, or or when I'm doing Dime stuff, or if Dime was playing, with Ozzy playing my stuff, and if Dime was playing the solo to No More Tears, Dime would do it if he did it note for note, but it's a Dime's touch and Dime's feel. You could hear it and you go, yeah, Dime playing the solo to No More Tears, or Mom, I'm Coming Home, whatever it is that I was doing. Like, it's because of Dime's touch. You know what I mean? So, because I always see it every time when I'm around. When we do the Generation X thing, but it's Steve Vai, Nuno, Tosin, and Yngwie. Just all of them play one note, literally one note, just a vibrato or a chord, just the guitar tone, their feel, their vibrato. I know exactly who's playing. I don't even have to forget about looking. I just hear one, and it's not even like I got to listen to a couple notes. I just hear, I just go, yeah, that's Tosin. Or you hear Nuno start shredding. It's like within two notes, I already know it's him or Steve or Yngwie. So I'm just saying that's the beauty of guitar. You know what I mean? So, whether it's Brian Setzer, David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, or Randy Rhoads, you're going to know where Alan Holdsworth gets up there. You know all these guys that are playing, just from two notes and their tone, and even when we're doing Experience Hendrix, like, Eric Johnson gets up there, you immediately know it's Eric. Just Eric playing a couple, it's just his guitar done a clean tone, and then when he does his distorted thing, forget it. It's Eric. And, it's so funny, because Eric would tell me some, these Stevie Ray Vaughan stories, because him and Stevie knew each other. And it's hilarious, because they're all drinking out of the same pond. But like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Eric Johnson are completely two different, even though it's pentatonic scales. I mean, that's the beauty of, you could take the same scale, two different guys, and it sounds worlds apart. And they're using the same ingredients in the soup. And it tastes it's two different bowls of soup, man. I think that is just awesome. That's the beauty of guitar.
I think it's probably one of the reasons why the guitar, it's the same when someone sings. You get 20 well-known singers, and they could sing one word, and you go, that's, they're the names of all the different singers.
Without a doubt.
And I do think it's harder to do with an instrument like a piano or something.
I agree. A piano is definitely definitely different than a guitar, a stringed instrument. You know what I mean? Because it's just, especially a guitar, is very expressive. Especially soloing. But I know what you're saying. Like a piano is a different beast, because whether it's Elton John or Billy Joel, it obviously comes down to who, a lighter touch, or if you hit harder or whatever. But it's because on the piano there's no vibrato.
Yeah.
So it's a weirder thing. I agree with you.
Yeah. I want to talk about gear. Some musicians spend their whole lives, accepting that the guitar is a tool and pedals are tools and amps, and not really paying a huge amount of attention to what is it about the instrument that makes it what it is. They just, it works, off we go.
Yeah.
I've spoken to even some of the guitar players that you've just mentioned, who I've met, who don't really know what a chorus pedal does, but they don't care. They know that if they turn it on, it does a thing, and they like it or they don't like it. You, on the other hand, are fascinated by the gear, so much so that you've done your own guitar brand, you've had an amp brand in the past, you've done collaborative pedals. Where does that come from? Where's that sort of?
Well, obviously, since you're a kid, and then just hearing Robin Trower, or Jimi Hendrix, where they, you go, what is that pedal, that they're using over there, and they're using a Univibe or whatever, so now we got the Rotovibe over here. I remember I was like, oh man, this is like, I can play Bridge of Sighs now, and it sounds like Bridge of Sighs, but I think it comes from that, us hearing pedals or whatever. It's just like, oh man, what is that? Or, like Randy's live tone. And it's, because he's got the chorus on there. So it's just like, it spreads it out really wide. It's just like, man, what is that pedal that he's using? When that's the beauty of learning, you know what I mean? When you're a kid, and it's just like, oh man, or Eddie Van Halen doing Eruption. It's like, what is that on his guitar? You know, and then it's like, oh, that's a Phase 9. You know, that's the pedal. And then, you know, when you're playing and you step on the pedal, you go, oh my God, it sounds like the record. You know, so I think that for all of us, that's where that aspect of it comes in, where you love, you know, trying to emulate your favorite players and all your guitar heroes and everything like that. But yeah, I think, you know, and it's, the pedals are just awesome in regards to just inspiring you for different songwriting, or what, you know, if you step on a different pedal and it inspires you to write a song around it, that's great. So yeah, but I think for all of us, you know, and then same thing with amps. I mean, it's just, I think amps are amazing as well. It's just because, you know, whether it's the old Laneys, and you got the Victories over there, the Oranges are great. I mean, every amp in here is awesome. The Friedmans, the Fenders. I mean, because it's just, you know, I mean, it's just, it's like Italian food, you know. There is no bad. It's all good, you know what I mean? So you got the pesto, you got the tomato sauce, you got it, you know. So it's all good.
Pedals are your herb cupboard. You know, like your guitar and the amp are your main ingredients, and the pedals are your
Parmesan cheese and everything else.
You know, and every good chef has to know what the right herbs are.
Yeah, so it's all good. So yeah, there is no bad. I mean, or else you just want to go straight in, you go straight in. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I'd want to hear AC/DC. I mean, because there is no need for acoustics either, you know, on an AC/DC record. So, but I mean, no, but when you listen to, even with Angus and Malcolm, that's just like awesome guitar tones, just pure tube amp guitar tones. You know, I mean, I'm just saying, the guitar tone just on Back in Black alone, just on that album. I mean, you could A/B your stuff to that thing till the end of time, just the production on that album. But I mean, you know, but the guitar tones are just, you know, it really is the truth. I mean, like, even when you're, even Leslie West said it. He goes, I remember, you know, making records. It is just like, wow, we wanted to sound like Cream, you know, like when they did. He goes, I remember when Leslie said, he goes, I remember when we made our first recording or whatever, we were like, it's just, we thought there was like magic dust they sprinkled, you know, when you get in the studio to make it sound like Cream or whatever. And he said, and then we just realized, no, it's because we're not good, you know. So, but it's the truth. I mean, if you get a good amp and you just stick a mic in front of it and you EQ, you know, you're just like, wow. I mean, we're there already. You know, like how when it was fix it in the mix, no, it should sound good right from the beginning. You know what I mean? And that's that. Yeah. I mean, so, yeah, I think, I mean, for all my learning experiences, obviously making, you know, obviously with Ozzy, just making the first album, you know, and then double tracking your guitars, that's when everything comes to life. I remember Ozzy told me, he goes, he remembers the first time he doubled his voice. He was just like, how's John Lennon getting that vocal sound on his voice? Is there like a special effect or something? You know, he didn't know. It was like, no, you just sing it once and then sing the line again. The same thing. And we'll do, he's like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand. He goes, they're doubling it. And he's like, I don't understand. He goes, just try it. You know, and just like Ozzy sang the one line, then he sang it again. Just sing it exactly the way you just sang it. Sang it again, and then they came. Ozzy, now come back in the studio, and they played it, and Ozzy was like, "Oh my God!" You know, it was like, that's how you do the trick. You know, that's how you pull the rabbit out of the hat. It's like, oh, that's how you do it. So, yeah, and Ozzy was like, "Oh my God, that sounds amazing." So, no, but I remember the first time I doubled my guitars in the studio, and it's just like you pan them back with Keith Olsen, and Keith was like, "Is that what you're hearing?" I go, "Oh my God, that sounds amazing." Like when we did Miracle Man, but yeah, it was just, yeah, I think, you know, and then that's just a matter of experience and learning, but yeah, it was the same thing with that. Even when we did it, it sounded, before it got EQ'd and mixed, and it sounded pretty much, it was already there. It was pretty much there.
I want to talk about Wylde guitars. I mean, like I say, your pedals with MXR Dunlop, you've got you've tweaked the chorus and the phaser and the overdrives to give you your sound.
Totally.
you've had a long association with pretty straight up British rock.
Yeah, with Marshall.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah. So whether it's been Marshall or whether it's been stuff you've tried to do with the Wild Audio brand, it's a British rock sounding guitar amplifier.
JCM 800.
Yeah. Now, but these though, I think it's fair to say, are much more original. It's not you've obviously, there are certain things.
Well, I still love the shape. You have your classic shapes, your Les Paul, your the SG, your Flying V. Well, I mean, which is, which in '58 that wasn't so traditional. You know what I mean? So people were like, you're probably never going to sell one of these things. You know what I mean? But so no, I mean having, and I mean, I love all the odd shapes as much as I've always. I'm associated with obviously a Les Paul Custom. I mean, I love them. So, the Les Paul, the Telly, and the Strat. You're never going to go wrong with that. Those are as perfect as you can get them. So, but no, I've always loved it. Like when the Modern and stuff like that. Like these really the insane odd shaped guitars. And I remember being a kid, when I first started playing, then the BC Riches and then the Wandre guitars and stuff like that, where they're just like insane shaped guitars. And, me and my buddies would always go, oh my God, look at how hideous this thing is. So to me, it was just like, there's this one page I follow on Instagram, Ugly Guitars. And it's just the best because they just put up the most hideous shapes on there. So obviously we got to start getting some Wild Audio shapes on Ugly Guitars. But it's just like, I mean, with this guy, it just, you got Lord Iommi in the front with the Warhammer, and then you got Randy Rhoads in the back. So, so whenever I'm making the designs of the guitars, I'll draw them out myself. So it's just like, and I'll just tweak on, obviously with the Odins, it's just a tweak on a Les Paul. So, and then obviously the Barbarian, just a tweak on an SG. So, yeah, I'll just, and obviously you got SG meets a Flying V on this guy. So, and this thing is just completely silly, with the Berzerker. But no, I'll draw out all the shapes that, if I see like, I'll have a book with, all guitars on it. I see some odd shaped guitars, and I'll just take, like, I mean, with this is like almost like I always thought the Maserite with the Gorgon,
right?
How it has the longer bottom horn on it. It's kind of like a Strat, but it had the longer bottom horn, and then, this kind of has like an Explorer in the back with an RD in the back, and then you got another, change the horn up in the front. So I'll just draw them out, and then just, until I get to it, I go, yeah, this thing's hideous. I go, it's not hideous enough. And make it more hideous and go, perfect, so. But I have a blast with it. I mean, I'll just make all the shapes. We're doing another one now, the Wrathmaker. We're working on that one. So, but we have a blast with it. With John, who does the guitars with me, he'll send me a cardboard cutout of it. We'll do it on computer, and then it's a cardboard shape. So we'll see if it's too big or too small or whatever. And then it'll be have a neck on it, a cardboard neck. So and I'll just sit with it, and I'll go, yeah, I think this is right. So this is perfect, the size of it. And then after that, John, he'll make the wood body. So, that's the process of making it. First it's cardboard, then we'll make it with the, because you never know when we want to do like, Breaking the Law by Judas Priest, when they had the cardboard guitar. So you never know when we want to, emulate that video. So we always have a chance of doing that. So we have the cardboard, then we do the wood body, and then make sure, it's the right size and it fits right. And then it's like, all right, and then we'll put it into production, and then make the proto.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, because when I first started playing these, I was thinking, I wonder if it's purely driven by an aesthetic. Is everything here just about drawing a guitar that looks kind of cool or looks the way you want it to look? But then you pick them up and you go, they're all, look at that. It's well balanced. You're not sitting there, is it doing this or whatever. So there obviously is a phase of the design that is more about the ergonomics of it, of just going, it has to work. It can't just be a crazy looking guitar that doesn't work. It's got to be a cool looking guitar that works as well, is well balanced.
Yeah, so you could sit with it and you could play it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Do you have one that you're you personally are more drawn to as a guitar to play, or are they all like your children and you just feel like
No,
you can't
I mean,
really have a
I got to
favourite?
be honest with you, I love them all. And I mean, the quality of them, I mean, just like my Epiphones and all my Gibsons that I did with Gibson and Epiphone, I never picked up one of them and it was played terrible or like, wow, they're really skimping on the quality here. You know, I mean, with all the Epis I ever played and all my Gibsons, always, I could just pick up any one of them and do a gig with them. I mean, it would just, there was never, I never played a bad one that I was just like, wow, the quality was always crushing. So, and same thing with this. I mean, the gang that, when they're making these, I mean, it's just, I mean, mind you, it's easier today. You know, I remember with Marshall, back at the factory, you know, when they were doing the soldering, you know, you'd always have, people always wanted point-to-point soldering and this and that. And they go, Zakk, check this out. This is the way we do it now, where they have, you know, the solder would be all boiling and stuff like that.
It's like a bath,
and then the board would just run right over it, and it would be done. And when it came out, it goes, look at that, perfect. Like every time, like a McDonald's cheeseburger, you know, a Big Mac. It's the same thing, whether you're buying it in England, Japan, or in New York. It tastes exactly the same. So as far as the consistency and the quality of it. So, and obviously with these, you know, with the necks and the board and everything like now, you know, because that was the big thing with the guitars back in the, you know, the 50s with Gibson and everything like that. Depending on how much everybody was drinking on Saturday and Sunday night, when they're coming in on Monday, you know, making the necks. That's why the necks would all be like different.
Yeah.
Whether it was a little bit thicker and then this neck is a little thinner, and it's just like, this is all from 58 or 59 or 57, and it's just like, how come the necks are like different shapes? You know what I mean? Because it depended on whether Frank or Andy was making it that day, you know what I mean? And how much they were drinking on the night before. But it was just, with this, that, you know, you give them, the gang has all the measurements of everything, and it just goes into the computer. So when it comes out, it's just exactly the same, every neck on these things. So it's just
what I like about it, so these are all the guitars that we've just taken from the store. So it's not like you've got one here that, you know, your tech has set up or anything like that. And I'm pretty sure you could pick any of these up.
Yeah, I mean, well, the whole thing is, and all the gear is the same that I use. It's just the 81, 85, the EMGs, and then the Tone Pros hardware. So, and the tuners, they're all the same. So, I mean, it's just, and it's all upgraded hardware. So, it already has all your upgrades on the guitar. You don't have to do anything to it. So just, I could walk into any music store, pick one of these up and do a Pantera show or Black Label, or do an Aussie gig, or Zakk, anything I'm doing, you know, whether Experience, Hendrix, anything. So, yeah, the quality on them are great. And I you know, when we're out on the road and we do VIP guitars, where I'm not one of those guys where I say, oh, it's got to be this good, you know, my one guitar, you know, and I got 50 other guitars out on the road, but I only play the one guitar. You know, just hand me the guitar and let's just do this, you know. So, yeah, I'm not a stickler like that.
When you're going through a set, do you like to have a fresh guitar for every song or every other song, or are you almost like, if one feels good, you try and do the set on that one
well,
guitar,
in the beginning, when we were doing the Pantera Celebration, I had my one Warhammer, and, you know, obviously with the whammy on it, because obviously Dime with the dive bombs and things like that. So, but I did the whole show with one guitar, you know, right in the beginning, because, you know, I didn't know how long Phil was going to talk, or if we were going to bang right into the next song or whatever. So I was just like, let's just keep the one guitar until we get, the set gets into a rhythm. So this way I know when I can change guitars or whatever. So, yeah, you know, so I could do my Diana Ross, you know, my clothing changes. Yes, my clothing changes so the guitar matches my fishnets and my eyeshadow.
There's
you
the
know?
inner Elton John coming out.
Yes, without a doubt. Well, that is another one of the Elton John influence. You know what I mean? I gotta have my different wardrobe sets.
Just massive different pairs of glasses for every song.
Exactly. My feather boas and everything like that.
Wouldn't that be just, no Zakk Wylde fan is expecting that coming in 2026?
Well, you just got to keep everything fresh.
Zelton Wild or whatever.
You got to see.
Coming out.
You go, well, at least he's evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I need to hear you just, like you say, 81, 85, the secret sauce ingredients is pretty standard across all of these. So I guess whichever one
and
you
the
pick
Nomad
up,
over here.
that's a very
little
cool
tribute to,
guitar.
you know, Jerry Garcia up in the front with the horns in the front there.
I have to say my favourite one is I've always been a sucker for where you see these kind of what is it, like an epoxy
with
kind
the resin,
like like
the
a resin that runs
those
through
are
like a river.
Yeah, because I saw it, you know, just on the internet, just like guys making some of the resin guitars. I was like, guys, let's see, and obviously every one of those are going to be different.
Yeah. And I've
Because
not
it's-
seen it done as a veneer before, because when I've looked at having one made for me just to sort of, you know, to do the resin things, and it adds about 50% onto the weight because the resin is so much heavier than the wood. So actually doing it as the veneer is a
lighter.
really clever idea,
Yeah.
because there's very little actual, you get the visual effect, but without the downside of the extra weight. That's a super cool looking guitar. And again, I've always been a sucker for some of those sort of slightly more unusual BC Rich kind of shapes. And
Yeah,
stuff.
well, I mean, and the wood. I mean, just a beautiful, you know, grain on the wood, whether it's a quilt or a tiger top or whatever you get, spalted mate, you know, the Buckeye burrow and all that stuff.
Yeah,
it's fun. I mean, I just have a good time with it.
Yeah. I mean, would you mind giving us? I don't mind if that one's feeling good for you. Just some.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, like I said, with this body shape, it just screams, you know,
great.
playing mellow stuff. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. What's the Spinal Tap thing where writes the love song? What do you call this one?
That's actually probably some of the new stuff we're doing with Black Label, but
That's it. I mean, is that how you would typically start to write a song? You just sit there and see where the chords
and then
go,
we just
start humming a
record
melody.
it. Yeah, because I mean, back in the day, with Oz, you know, like looking back on when we first started, you know, when we were doing No Rest for the Wicked, Miracle Man, and all that stuff, we would, like, how you get ready for a tour now, you know, we'd go over the songs. Like everybody, you know, you do rehearsals and play the songs. We'd like drive these songs, and we were ready to do the songs before we went in the studio. Whereas like now you go in the studio with nothing, you know what I mean? And just start, like even when we did like Lord Humongous just now, I just ended up just like how I wrote it right now. Like, you know, if that, with this song right over here. So you just write the song and then go, you know, I go, what's that? And you go, oh, Zakk, I just wrote that earlier today when I was having coffee. I go, let's record that. And then we'll record it and the guys will play along to it, and then you can put your vocals on it. And next thing you know, that's another song done. So as opposed to like going into a rehearsal room and we'll sit there and practice the song. It's just like, just record it. I never demo anything.
Right.
Just do it for real.
Do you think is that only really possible now because having your own home studio is possible and you're not paying, you know, $1,000 a day for?
I mean,
studio
actually,
space?
you know, like when we did Stillborn and everything like that, that was just going into the studio with no song ideas at all. But I was just thinking, like, you know, what I always try, like even with Lord Humongous, we have that thing out now with the Gallows, the last two songs. For me, I just try to, let me just I'll give you 2 strings on the guitar and see if you can write a song. You know what I mean? Just, all right, maybe I'll give you the 4 strings so you can play some power chords. That's it. See if you can write me some songs. And then, you know, like Smoke on the Water. You're talking about 3 chords. You know what I mean? So see if you can write a song around 3 chords. I remember like when we did Stillborn, I was like, let me see if we can, write a song with one note. You know what I mean? So da-na-na-na-na, 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 da-na-na, so it, and then, obviously the pre-chorus is E, then back to F sharp, but then the chorus is F sharp, D, E, and B. So you have, that's it. But it's basically that one riff, but it's just 4 chords. I'm going to give you 4 chords, see if you can write a whole song around that. So if I only gave you X amount of food, and let's see if you can make a meal out of that, or a soup, or whatever, you know what I mean? So I just, for with Black Label, and even the mellow stuff, I just try and keep it as simple as possible. You know what I mean? Even when you listen to Elton John, you listen to Rocket Man or any of the other things, it's very little going on. You know what I mean? And then this way, it's the melody.
It's all beautiful melodies, isn't
it?
Yeah,
even with Oz, when we did, Mom, I'm Coming Home and stuff like that, you're talking about, it's just E, even if it was, it's a... But you could, it's just basically E to A. It's just, and it's Ozzy's melody.
Do you know what freaks me out every time is, it doesn't matter how simple the guitar part is, when you hear the guy that wrote it play it, it makes all the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and it sounds like, what's the right word? It sounds like the right one. Like, I could play, any other guitar player could play exactly what you played note for note, and it wouldn't make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Just sitting watching you play. If
Richie Blackmore plays Smoke on the Water, then you're going to go, oh, well, that's actually the way it was really played.
Even down to, I remember seeing, we had Larry Carlton here, and he played this like 10-second Steely Dan thing, and it wasn't a really difficult, but it was like...
But it sounds just like the record.
It was just like, that's it, that's the guy. And it is amazing how... just whatever it is in your fingers, the mass of the skin or the touch, it just...
No, I agree.
It's unique, isn't it? Every guitar player has their own unique voice.
That's the beautiful thing about music, you know what I mean? I agree.
Yeah, I kind of feel like... Here we go. He's got his blues chops up to speed here. I like it. But I want it... Yeah, what happens when we turn everything up to 10? Apart from the amplifier, we won't turn that up to 10. Do you want to go a bit quieter on the amp for you? Yeah, definitely.
So you got that. There you go. There's a new song.
I can't help but think, you know, that riff starts and then the 10,000 people in the theater or whatever are just like, we know as soon as they recognize whatever's coming, they go, absolutely. That must be electric.
I just have like the same kind of setup in my gym. So I'll go out there with coffee and just like, it's like, oh, you guys let's write a new song. So I mean, I'll just go out there. Just saying, I'll just record it on my phone, and then we'll have the guys come over and then we track it. So, and then we make a video. Then I have to go buy the sumo suits and the masks so we could be Lord Humongous. But yeah, that's how it's done.
I'm very conscious that this is supposed to be your day off, and I don't want to keep you here, you know, for any longer than. So I sort of feel like the video's coming to quite a nice sort of natural conclusion. It's been great to hear you play it. Lovely to hear about some of your influences and experiences.
Oh, yeah, totally,
yeah, look, man, unless there's anything else you want me to try and sort of cover off, I kind of feel like this has been an amazing time for me. But I'm sure, given how crazy hectic your schedule is, you don't get that many days off. So I'm sure you want to probably
I love
go
it though,
and
man.
chill.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Even after all this time, you still want to go to guitar shops and go, oh, that looks cool.
Oh yeah, so I'll still buy stuff off of Reverb or whatever. I see some, you know, and then the great thing is if you see old, you know, I mean, guitars, I always say, you know, or that reminded you of your childhood or, you know, your youth, you know what I mean, when you first started playing, of all your favorite players that had them or whatever. Then me and buddy Steve, who takes care of the guitars as well. So, you know, like if we see guitars that are, you know, it might as well be, you know, something like ridiculously hideous or whatever. And the best thing is if you see it, if you can get a good deal on it. You know what I mean? So if you find one that's like $600 and you go, oh, dude, I found another one. It's the same thing, but it's like for $400, bro. So that's the other thing too. It's just like, you know, because you're going or just finding. I think with guitars, everybody always says it's just like, yeah, the collecting of guitars. It's just like, yeah, but you already have a ton of them. I go, no, but like, it's like collecting toys, coins, stamps. I'm just saying it's fun.
I'm going to ask Barbara Ann, is he an absolute nightmare at home? Is it just like, can you just not move for all these purchases? It's a total nightmare.
5 storage units.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I have my own guitar company, but I still love, you know, whether it's, you know, Neil Girardo, you know, from Pat Benatar, you know, if you want to get one of his old BC Riches, the green, you know, the Green Hornet one. So, you know, just because you think it's awesome. So I still collect guitars, without a doubt.
You're an inspiration to us all. Just, you know, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I hope you have many more years of
Well, cheers. We'll have to come back, man. Well, are you going to come out to the Zakk Savage show?
Absolutely.
All right, very cool.
I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure. You are welcome in Guildford anytime for your 6-shot espresso.
Well, you got a great shop here, man.
Thanks,
for
man.
sure.
And if you're watching this, I think we're going to see if Zakk will put his little signature on the back of these guitars, and you'll be able to come down to the store and buy one of these if you want to. It'll be one of the actual ones that's in the room.
I hit them all.
Look, man, I said it's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers,
I'm so
buddy.
pleased you came down.
Thank you very much, my brother.
And thank you guys for watching. And we shall see you in another video soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
All happy?
Did you see that, Talina?
Thanks, Zach.
Thumbs up.
Did you do the thumbs up?